Let's talk about Collateral Beauty. 3 years ago, nobody probably remembers this film apart from me, but 3 years ago, a film came out called A New York Winter's Tale. And it was another January release, though Collateral Beauty, of course, came out in December. But it was another Christmas, New Year release. A New York Winter's Tale, which was a magic realist romance set in snowy Manhattan and featuring Will Smith. And it was completely dreadful. I mean, it was kind of not just bad.
When was this?
This was like 3 years ago. Three Januaries ago.
Lost me by.
Now, 3 years on, Collateral Beauty arrives, and it is also a magic realist romance set in snowy Manhattan, featuring Will Smith. And you start to think maybe these elements, it's some kind of occult formula that's like the stars aligning for the return of like the Scarlet Beast of Revelations or something. Because no film that seems to involve Will Smith in Manhattan with snow in a magic realist context is ever going to be good. This is particularly atrocious. The plot kind of defies description, but I'm going to try. Will Smith is an advertising guru and domino enthusiast who loses his 6-year-old... No, you can't laugh now because the sad bit's coming.
Okay, sorry.
He's an advertising guru and domino enthusiast who loses his 6-year-old daughter to cancer. Now, when he's at a grief support group, he meets Naomi Harris, who runs the group. She has also lost a child to cancer, and she tries to explain the significance of the title Collateral Beauty. Okay, now this is actual dialogue from the film, I promise. This hasn't been faked. This is the way in which they seamlessly bring the title of the film into the dialogue.
Nice.
I have something that I haven't told anyone. They were preparing Olivia to say goodbye. And I was sitting there in the waiting room, and there was this woman sat next to me. And she asked me who I was about to lose. And I told her. And she looked at me and she said, "Just be sure to notice the collateral beauty." About a year later, something started to happen to me, you know? I would be walking or on the subway or whatever, and I would just burst into tears. But these weren't Olivia tears. These were tears born from something else, from this kind of profound connection to everything. And I realized it was the collateral beauty.
That's not even the worst of it. So we have this kind of incredibly mawkish bereavement drama going on. But the thing is, while Will Smith is understandably grieving for his daughter, his work at the advertising agency goes to pot. So his three best friends at the agency, who are played by Ed Norton, Kate Winslet and Michael Pena, cook up this scheme in order, I mean, they genuinely believe that this scheme is going to save their best friend's life. They go out and they find three actors, professional actors, who are played by Helen Mirren, Keira Knightley and Jacob Latimore, to play what is described in the film as the three abstractions: love, time and death. Now, I know when I said the three abstractions, instantly you're thinking, oh yeah, love, time and death, of course. Those are what the three abstractions are. And they get these three actors to follow Will Smith around Manhattan and kind of shout life advice at him. It's not particularly connected to love, time and death. They might as well be called sausage, eggs and chips. But they kind of descend on him at various moments. He's on the subway, he's on the bus. These random people come out of the crowd and start shouting at him. While this is going on, because this synopsis is not finished yet, a private investigator is surreptitiously filming these encounters and then takes the footage away to airbrush out the actors. So they have footage of Will Smith basically in public shouting at thin air. This footage is then presented as a surprise. This is all part of their plan. This footage is presented as a surprise at a shareholders meeting for the advertising firm so that he looks mentally incompetent and is got rid of. And then they can all cash in on his shares and sell the company, and it's all happily ever after. So it's basically this kind of program of sustained psychological torment followed by grand-scale securities fraud. And that is this wonderful, life-affirming journey that Will Smith's character goes on. I mean, it just makes no sense. You get the impression that this has been roughly inspired by A Christmas Carol, not least because it's set at winter in Manhattan. So it's a very, very Christmassy setting. But because you have these three spiritual guides coming to shape this person's life, make them reflect on the past. But it just, in no sense, holds up. And it's what I can't possibly even process about this is that at no point on set, someone didn't just kind of say, come, pick up the scripts and Have you read this? It doesn't. It would never happen. I mean, it's sustained psychological torture of a colleague in order to bring them out of their shell, rather than kind of completely mentally destroy them. The Dominoes thing ties in eventually, by the way. It's not really a key plot for it, but it does come in at the end. It's directed by David Frankel, who has done Marley and Me, The Devil Wears Prada, seems to be kind of a capable journeyman filmmaker, and written by a guy called Alan Loeb, who has written films like Things We Lost in the Fire and The Dilemma. I mean, these are films that I felt have just got humanity wrong on quite a fundamental level, but nothing on this kind of scale. It's just this sense of why is this happening, and why are all these famous, talented people doing it? Will Smith, who
Ed Norton, right?
Ed Norton, right. Now, Ed Norton's character is he starts cracking on to Love, a.k.a. Keira Knightley, while this is all underway, because...
so everybody else can see these guys?
Yes. They are actually real actors. They find them in this theatre company, and everyone else can see them, and Will Smith can see them, but it's just when the PI airbrushes them out.
Right, yeah,
that's when the deception really comes about. But,
Smart.
And then, at the end, I mean, we can't even go into it, but there's this double twist ending that just... sort of roll, the first twist, you take one sock off, roll it up, shove it in your mouth to stifle these groans of dismay, and then the second twist comes and the other sock comes off and gets tied around your eyes or something.
Did you feel that in the cinema, like with your other cinema goers?
Yes, totally, because it's one of these twists that basically says, we were planning this all along, you didn't realise, you didn't spot it, look how smart we've been, rather than making you suddenly reassess everything you've seen and think, right.
So that's what was happening.
Exactly.
There's one email here from a gentleman called Josh, who said he'd heard the film was unintentionally hilarious, and that's why he went, and he says it didn't disappoint, and that only Ed Norton and Naomi Harris came away somewhat unscathed, and that he guessed the twist halfway through. He ends it by saying it's the funniest movie of the year, and too bad it wasn't a comedy. So was there some sort of, masochistic joy to be had?
Yeah, a lot of the dialogue.
Terribleness.
A lot of the dialogue is pure gobbledygook. I mean, he's right to single out Naomi Harris because her character is really the only person who is a recognisable human being in the story. But Will Smith's big question that he asks his staff is, "What is your why?"
What is your why?
What does it mean? What is your why? It's like, who is your where? It's just words. And then Helen Mirren at one point tells him something like, "Nothing's dead if you look at it right." Nothing's really dead. Nothing's actually dead if you look at it right. It's like, what about ham? That's dead. So
when your kid's goldfish pops its clogs,
exactly. That's
your kid's just not looking at it right.
Let me just sit down. Let me tell you something that Miss Helen Mirren once said. Nothing's really dead if you look at it right.
And it's funny what you say about just putting random words together, because when I first saw the trailer of this film and I was going to see something else, I remember looking at those two words in the title and how, overblown the trailer was, and thinking, are these just two sort of Oscar fodder type words that you just use, collateral and beauty, and you stick them together and it sounds deep?
It's like there's a fruit machine in Alan Loeb's office where he just kind of spins it and
exactly.
Ka-chink, ka-chink, the dilemma, ka-chink, ka-chink, collateral beauty, ka-chink, ka-chink, things we lost in the fire.
It's worth checking out the trailer actually if you don't want to sit through the whole film, because just for the fact that it looks as if Will Smith somebody's broken wind and he definitely smelt it, but he can't quite work out who the culprit is, and he's just
maybe
going
it was
through
him.
New York trying to work it out. Could have been him. He could just be trying to fob us all off. Maybe that's the twist. I don't know. I haven't seen it.